Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Force here with some more StarCraft 2 commentary. Today we will be looking at a series between Nerchio and WhiteRa. This is going to be a Protoss versus Zerg, WhiteRa versus Nerchio, starting off here on the map Daybreak. And let us begin with some recent player information. Starting over here in the lower left-hand spawn position, we've got our pink Zerg player Nerchio. Nerchio took third place at the Twitch TV European Invitational in December of 2011. He also took first place at the Scan Invitational 2, which was also in December of 2011. His opponent over here in the upper right-hand spawn position, WhiteRa, also known as Grandpa Toss, our red Protoss player, took second place at MLG European Invitational 2011. This was in November of last year. Also took fourth place at the ASOS ROG Stars Invite, which was also in November of last year. So there you have it, guys. That is the recent player tournament information for both these guys. And starting this game off, looks like we will be seeing a Forge Fast Expand from WhiteRa here, building a connection from the corner of the ramp all the way across towards his Nexus, which will be placed, of course, right over there. We'll see if he decides to go Forge first or if he's going to go for the more economical but a little bit riskier Nexus first. We'll keep a close eye on that. Back over here, WhiteRa scouting out the main. Nerchio, of course, pretty much forced to go with a pool first here. That early scout from a Protoss player makes it so that the Zerg player really can't go expansion first. Of course, this is pretty well known by now. Trying to go expansion first, you deal with the probe harass, you deal with pylon harass, and the possibility of cannon harass as well in this matchup. So there you go, Nerchio decides to go pool first, which again is pretty much now the standard. Back over here for WhiteRa, still nothing. Now he is coming down right now with the probe, and it is going to be Forge first, but you can see he delayed the Forge and made it pretty much so that when he was dropping the Forge, he was dropping the Nexus at about the same time. He's going to hit those 400 minerals right now, come out with the Nexus, and then of course following up this Forge with a cannon and a gateway as he works to continue this wall off here. Back over here, we can see Nerchio trying to shoo the probe away. WhiteRa places down the pylon. Now sometimes you will see the Zerg player just go ahead and take his first expansion right over in this position when dealing with this kind of harass. Let's see what Nerchio does decide to do. We've got a second drone coming down. Pool is now up with 4 Lings about to pop. Also a Queen coming through. It looks like, yes, Nerchio will be attempting to go down here, but look at this WhiteRa. Oh, I thought he was going to go for another pylon to try to delay that base as well. That would have been quite humorous. Even if, you know, didn't complete it, but at least started building it so that he could cancel it off. Now, as you can see, Nerchio was able to take down this pylon, placing down the hatchery. Still no gas for him, so he will be coming out with a quick third, and there it is. Nerchio now has 2 hatcheries in production. The 4 Lings making their way across the map. Probe headed back home. A little bit surprised, though, that WhiteRa's probe isn't tucking himself away in the corner over here, or somewhere in this vicinity, just to confirm that quick third. We may just see him actually move out with a Zealot, though, once this gateway does finish, producing a Zealot and then pushing out across towards the third with that. Because since there is a quick third here, Nerchio isn't going to have metabolic boost for quite a while, and so a lone Zealot can actually pretty much safely make that journey without too much concern. So let's see what he decides to do, though. Cybernex core now building here. There's that first Zealot coming through, and also we've got the photon cannon placement right here. Would be a little bit risky if we saw roaches, because as you can see, this cannon would not reach roaches if they were sitting here and trying to punch through that Forge. But you know, that isn't exactly happening right now, so nothing to be too concerned about. Nerchio now focusing, of course, on droning up as hard as possible. Now that he does have a third base just about to finish, he's going to come out with a lot of drones, try to get that saturated nice and early on. We've got a Ling checking right now for any possible cannon harass, any proxy pylons, or a drone scout, or anything like that. You see he's going to go all the way over here, and should likely also check up here, because that is a very popular position for Protoss players to hide secondary scouts. So it wouldn't hurt to do that. Although, never mind, because we do have a Ling at this tower, which will be spotting the Zealot move across, and Nerchio loses the Zergling. Very unnecessary and quite unfortunate, to be honest. Definitely a loss he did not have to take. Yeah, I'm really surprised that he didn't pull back with that Zergling. I guess he just wasn't paying attention to the minimap. I don't know what else to tell you. All right, let's take a quick look here at the vision. We do have a Overlord situated right over here. Also an Overlord looking to see when a third does come through. The Zealot making its way across directly towards that natural expansion. Gonna spot this first. Oh, kills off a creep tumor. Spots a natural, and he should be moving up to check the third, and there we go. So as I mentioned earlier, this really isn't a problem at all, and he went far enough just to see the creep, which pretty much tells him that there's an expansion there, and then he's going to pull on back. But since, you know, in going for a quick third, as we saw Nerchio do here, really delaying that metabolic boost, in fact, you can see that it's still not even coming through. He's instead coming out with a Roach Horn right now. That Zealot can pretty much make a safe journey to scout the natural expansion plus the third position. Let's see what WhiteRa's got going on. We do have some Immortals coming on through. Warp Gate Research Plus, a level 1 weapon upgrade. 2 more gateways now building at the moment as well. Zergling Scout chilling out over here. The Zealot does have the tower, giving a little bit of map control there to WhiteRa. And actually, wow, Nerchio hasn't taken this tower. Wouldn't be a bad idea just to give himself a little bit of scouting vision. Losing a Zergling again. Nerchio, 2 unnecessary losses here in the early game. Kind of makes me super sad. Metabolic boost now researching. Roach Warren is in play. We've got a layer about halfway done and an evolution chamber coming through, allowing for those upgrades once that does complete. And then besides that, just continuing to drone up here. We've just got a steady stream of mining going on. And I'm really interested to see what WhiteRa has in the works right now. Again, we are seeing those Immortals. The weapons level 1 is now finished with the armor level 1 getting chrono boosted out at the moment. 2 more gateways coming through, and these 2 as well. It's going to be a gateway heavy composition with 6 here, number 7 sitting right there, plus the robotics coming out with a few Immortals, and now transitioning into a War Prism. And it looks like WhiteRa is planning to push right now, moving out with what few units he has, also moving out with the Probe, which will allow him to place down a proxy pylon. Roches will be forcing back the Zealot there. Metabolic boost now finishing here for Nerchio, and now also coming out, since that layer is complete, with a Spire right over in this position. So WhiteRa getting ready to engage. We got the Probe moving in that direction. Where's that pylon going? There we go, 1 pylon right there. Can converge in the center to allow him to take out at least 1 of these Roaches. 2 force field walls, almost getting a 3rd. Looks like the Roaches will sneak away. Now he's just starting that Cloud Reconstitution, which is of course that Roach speed. Also enjoying the creep spread here from Nerchio, trying to get as much vision as possible towards the center of the map. It's going to let him know ahead of time when an engagement is coming. And WhiteRa is actually going to be using this Warp Prism here as a mobile pylon to warp in units as he continues his aggression here. It's just going to want to drop that every time the Warp Gate cooldown completes. Get another full round of Warp-ins. Bunch of Speedlings plus Roaches over there. We do have this push now moving towards the 3rd base of Nerchio. And he's still just sitting on 2 bases right now, so WhiteRa dumping all of his resources into this engagement. Is this going to be a counterattack? May very well be. Nope. Just checking the vision and then pulling back. With these crew tumors, of course, Nerchio can see this coming. He's got a few Roaches and Speedlings over here, plus a bunch of Speedlings coming up from the backside. Drones also pulling off the line. There's the force field wall, making it take forever for those Speedlings to actually get up to the forces, and WhiteRa hanging on as much as possible. He's got the War Prism right here, allowing for continuous warp-ins. A few Roaches sneak on in, and they're going to be trying to target fire down a bunch of those sentries. All the sentries now very low on energy, so we won't be seeing many more force fields, at least for a short while. But WhiteRa still hanging on, takes out the 3rd. We got some Roaches moving down, and they are sentry hunting right now. Look at that, just picking them off one at a time, but it doesn't matter because Nerchio has lost his 3rd base. Let's take a quick look at the resources lost right now. Nerchio quite a bit behind. 4,200 as opposed to 2,800 resources lost, and it looks like Nerchio says counterattack. Is that what it's going to be? Is he just looking to meet the forces in the middle? Yeah, he is. Going to try to overwhelm WhiteRa in the center of the battlefield. Now, we still got this War Prism, so we could see some more. So abusable. I don't know why we don't see this more often, to be honest with you. Mobile War Prism for on-the-go warp-ins. And that pretty much saved him right there. He was able to get that extra round of warp-ins in, which made Nerchio realize, hey, there's more units coming. Because otherwise, he could have potentially overwhelmed there. Bunch more Roaches in production. Nerchio replacing down that 3rd base as well. Nerchio. Oh man, he's not too thrilled with himself. Look at that face. Look at that face. Give me a better version of that. Oh man, that's a sad face. Give him a little box there. Congratulations. Wasting your time. Roaches and Speedlings now pushing out. Is this going to finally be the counterattack? Is he still just dancing around? Looks like he is. Observer leading the way over here for WhiteRa, giving him some forward vision as to what's going on. WhiteRa still just sitting on these 2 bases, and that is it. making no effort to move towards getting a third base. He is really, really committed to trying to do as much damage as possible. He's got the 1-1 upgrades, no more coming through, 2 more cannons and some frontal defense, which further solidifies the fact that WhiteRa does not plan to expand. He is just going to continue up this aggression and do what he can with the resources off of 2 bases. So it's all up to Nerchio right now to defend. If he can defend this next major push coming from WhiteRa, then he has got the game, because he's going to have this base up and running. The problem is defending this push. This is a very, very significant force right now from WhiteRa. And again, of course, he's got those upgrades. No upgrades for Nerchio. He does have the melee level 1 for these Zerglings. With melee level 2 coming out. Here we go, another engagement. Speedlings and Roaches pulling forward, trying to overwhelm WhiteRa's forces. There are just so many sentries in play. 11 to be exact. And once more using the Warp Prism as a mobile hotspot to warp in units. Hitting the 3rd again, and it is a goner. Nerchio once more loses this base. Now this is a problem right here for Nerchio, engaging WhiteRa's force on this kind of tight choke point here, where force fields are going to be so effective. Watch the force fields. There they are. So cut off a wee bit of Nerchio's forces, you know, splitting his army into portions, and then just picking off one side, and then doing that again and again, and just slowly whittling down the army. Now we do have some infestors in play, and they can fungal growth, so this is a pretty crucial moment here. Fungal goes down, the damage is going to help a lot, also just rooting those forces in place. Roaches plus infestors, WhiteRa taking significant damage to the fungal growth, and the Roaches helping to mop up the rest, and that is going to do it. WhiteRa is getting overwhelmed. There it is. All of WhiteRa's forces pushed back. This is kind of the whole kit and caboodle for him. This is everything that he had. But it's important to know that Nerchio is still also on 2 bases. We're going to see him try to place down that 3rd over here. Roaches forcing WhiteRa's stalkers back. No blink or anything like that. I mean, it just goes to show you how little tech WhiteRa had. He was just so committed to that gateway heavy army with some immortals in the mix. Tons of sentries, 1-1 upgrades. That was what he went for. He was trying to just win the game right there with that. Didn't happen. I want to take a look at the resources lost. They are now about even. Nerchio with that creep spread here from the Overlord will be delaying this 3rd base for WhiteRa, as he has to wait for this creep to completely recede. And sure, it doesn't take forever, but it's kind of an annoyance. I mean, look, he still can't place the base down. He would love to right now. Roaches and Speedlings, as well as a few infestors in the center of the map, as Nerchio is preparing to finally, for once in this game, himself go on the offensive. WhiteRa is scouting out this position with the Observer right now, but here comes the push. Now, the big thing is going to be if he can delay this, because if he can keep WhiteRa on 2 bases, WhiteRa is in a tough way. He does not have a lot of resources at all in his currently 2 mining bases. Now, we do have a Warp Prism filled with Zealots moved across the map. This is something that Nerchio is fully aware of, though, as he has spotted that. So hopefully he's got some forces prepared for it. We got a bunch of Speedlings plus a few infestors about to pop. I'm assuming he's going to be okay. We'll keep an eye on that, though. Nerchio breaking down these structural debris, getting ready to push up into the natural expansion. Here is the drop plus warp-ins, fungal growth, and a few Speedlings meet those Zealots. Fungal growth damage enough to take out the Warp Prism. Zealots should be taken care of. Yeah, there we go. Zealots finally getting overwhelmed, and here are the Roaches and the Speedlings now moving towards the natural expansion. We're going to Colossus there, WhiteRa trying to hang on as best as possible. Zealots finally taken care of. All Nerchio really has to do right now is prevent a 3rd from going up. Wouldn't it be a bad idea to move a scout up here, though? Who knows? WhiteRa could have a hidden expansion, you know? Not the worst idea to check that. Just seriously, just 1 Speedling. Please, Nerchio, send 1 Speedling. Do yourself a favor, get that intel. Nerchio now mining from that 3rd. Want to take a look at the income right now. Nerchio has the slight advantage at the moment. He's got a large army right now. Much larger than WhiteRa's. WhiteRa does have those Colossus. Oh no, takes a fungal growth to the sentries. Infested Terrans get placed down. A couple Speedlings moving up, trying to damage this Colossus. And that is not looking good for WhiteRa at all. It's like Nerchio is about to overwhelm his entire force. Also, those infested Terran doing so much damage. WhiteRa says, good game, well played, and that is game number 1. Alright my friends, that does it for game number 1 here between WhiteRa and Nerchio in this series between the two players. WhiteRa attempted a strong 2-base push. Although Nerchio lost his expansion twice, he was able to hang on and eventually take the lead and push out for the strong counterattack to secure the victory. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the commentary. Game number 2 coming right up. As always, keep watching and keep owning.